Well, following heavy storms in parts of KZN yesterday afternoon, around 50 homes were damaged in Inanda's Dube village, north of Durban. The Minister of Human Settlements, Mmamoloko Kubayi, is addressing the community in Inanda. For more on this, let's take you there now live. Okay, we see that we've got Jade Polser who's joining us now. Jade, good morning and thank you so much for making time for us. We understand that the Minister is there, but also speak to us about the extent of this devastation that has been caused really by a storm that lasted for just about 10 minutes.
Well, a very good morning to you, Aldrin. And yes, many community members were saying that storm lasted about 10 minutes. There were videos circulating on social media depicting what we see as a tornado. Gusty winds have also ripped through many homes in Inanda, especially in the Dube village. And we've been on the ground since early this morning, speaking to community members, speaking to eyewitnesses as to what they saw happening. We are coming to you from the Amaoti community hall, where 50 community members who were affected by yesterday's storm are being housed by provincial government. We've also seen provincial government on the ground speaking to community members, also assessing the damage on the ground. The Human Settlements Minister, as well as the Mayor of eThekwini, Mxolisi Kaunda, and also the Premier of the province, Nombuso. I can see we are about to start now, Aldrin. Let's just wait and hear what the Minister has to say with regards to an update on the situation on the ground.
Good morning, colleagues. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm with the Premier of the province, the MEC of the province for Human Settlements. Premier, yeah, I'm here, okay. Did I start before everybody was ready? Sorry, my apologies. We normally check if everybody is ready. My sincere apologies. I'll start again. Good morning. I'm with the Premier Nomsa Dube. I'm also joined by MEC Nkosi, who's responsible for human settlements and public works in the province. We're with the Deputy Minister Chwete and the Mayor of eThekwini, Mayor Kaunda. The intention when I came here into the province is mainly to go and hand over a Kanku housing project, which is one of the projects that we've been working on together with the province and the municipality. You'd understand this is a project that is meant to remove people from the old transit camp, or what we call our Lindela, to this housing project, which is one of the beautiful and successful projects that eThekwini and the province is delivering as part of our pre-presidential imbizo in eThekwini. Yesterday then we got the news of the disaster that has happened, and we decided together with the leadership of the province and of the municipality that we will start this morning, before we go to hand over the project of Kanku, start and visit the communities and understand the damage that has happened, but also learning from last time we were here when we had the disasters in terms of our response time. We've been to various communities, and the Mayor will go into detail together with the Premier. We've been to various communities. We've interacted with community members who told their stories about what has happened. Major of them, roofs have gone. Some of them in terms of completely damaged houses. In terms of the assessment, the teams, as you know, we have almost around 24-hour working turnaround time in terms of assessment, just recording where the disasters are happening. So the figures that we have currently are not solid figures or finalized figures. I'm saying that so that when you hear us starting to talk about so many number of houses or that, and later you see the difference in the numbers, you'd understand that because we've been on the ground quite early, while the team is on the ground registering communities. For example, the first stop where we went, the registration team had actually stopped to allow us to be there to visit the families before they can finalize the registration. Here in this hall as well, we were told that the number is almost around 150 and counting for the damaged houses. So this will call in terms of human settlements, partially damaged, and then there will be numbers of completely damaged, which they are still working on. But they had people in the hall, almost 36 people who slept in the hall. You'd understand that that is part of the work that we are doing to assess, get the figures, and then the interventions. From our side as human settlements, there are options, as you know, that from the 1st of April we took over the responsibility as national for emergency housing. What we have done, the team is already here, the DLG responsible for informal settlements and emergency housing, they are here. The team that works in terms of gathering data, but also soon to be joined by the team that does assessment. What we do, because sometimes with our eyes we look at the structure and we say we can just replace a roof, and you find only that later that the structural integrity has been compromised. So we do need professionals to come, assess, and then tell us. We previously introduced a system that is a voucher system in terms of partially damaged, where we give vouchers so that families can be able to replace where there are minor damages. If the structure is still intact and the roof, it's only what has been damaged, they will be able to do that. But also there are other issues that we are looking at: temporary accommodation, what we call TRUs, alternative building technologies, as I said previously, that we introduced as part of our response. The message to our communities is always the same. For example, we moved people out of what they call Cuba transit area, or linked to the Cuba project. When we moved with eThekwini and the province, the people there, then others went and studied, because there was a delay in the project, but also other complications. But then they started having other rental people who are there. The majority of them today are affected. So my message continuously says to our communities, please don't put yourself where we are saying it's not safe. Because this is what we are learning, that majority of those areas, it's where we are finding difficulties with the disasters. It's consistent not only in KwaZulu-Natal but across the country, where people place themselves where it's not suitable for human settlements, then you end up with these disasters. And when we say that, it's not because we are not going to help them now, but we are just cautioning them, because we are fortunate today we don't have losses of life. I think they said 1%, but I can confirm. But normally we do have people who die because of these disasters, and that's what we are trying to prevent as government, to ensure that where people are not supposed to be staying shouldn't stay, so that when this type of disasters happen, we don't have the difficulty. Climate change is the issue that we are dealing with, and that's why globally we fight to say, when people talk about the responses to climate change and climate change financing, they don't talk about resettlement of communities and households that are caused by climate change. And we'll continue that fight as the National Department of Human Settlements, as you would have heard me when I was at the UN Habitat raising this issue that sharply, that as global communities we need to start pushing for financing of resettlement of communities caused by disaster, or what would have been the effect of the climate change in terms of our communities. But I'd like to hand over both to the province and to the municipality, so that they can be able to give details in terms of the work that is being done, because it's a joint effort. This is DDM in operation, colleagues.
Well, we can take question, rather. Thank you. The minister's covered everything.
Okay, Premier Jade Paulser from the SABC. Just a question to local government. We saw that the province was really battered with floods. It's something that many people will remember. I imagine this was very traumatizing for the community of Inanda and the surrounding areas. Can you talk about what's going to happen going forward with these? I think the minister said 150 community members that are being housed in the Amaoti community hall.
Well, thank you. As the minister has indicated, that we are here together with our teams that are doing an assessment. Only 36 people slept over at the hall. others were able to stay at their houses. With the assessment that is going on now, we need to establish whether the people that are here do not have a roof over their head. So, and that's what's going to be the next step. The next step, when they are, their house have been totally damaged or totally destroyed, we will then need to find an alternative accommodation for them, a temporary accommodation for them. And we have been able, through the work and the initiative that the Minister has indicated, to now introduce a variety of temporary, accommodating our people. So this is what needs to happen. And then the second part is that those that are partially damaged, with the assistance of the engineers and other technical people, we would then be able to issue the building vouchers. And we also wish to appreciate the Minister through, again, her leadership. We've now been able not to restrict, the intervention in terms of just looking at the roof. There will be instances where somebody needs a cement, needs a door, needs a roof, and that then the voucher will then need to accommodate all the needs of those people that have had their houses partially damaged. And those that have been totally destroyed, those are now needing to get into the list of those people that need accommodation, permanent accommodation. But it will start with temporary accommodation, then they would move then to the permanent accommodation. So this is what is happening right now. And our turnaround time, as the Minister has said, electricity department is already here. Water and sanitation departments are already here as well. The human settlement, the disaster management, all the teams are already here. And there will be a joint operations center meeting that is going to be happening now in the afternoon, where we will be getting an update report on the assessment so far, including other areas of eThekwini where people have been affected by those heavy rains. And from there, the intervention will then have to start following that report.
Can we just get a clarification from the Mayor? Mayor, according to emergency services, one person has died of injuries suffered when informal houses were washed away in Cato Crest and 6 people injured. Have you got more information on this?
No, for now, that's what we have on our side. We are still conducting assessments. The Premier also directed the health department in the province, working with our local municipality health, to ensure that we check in hospitals. We have interacted with other family members who did indicate to us that their family members have already gone to hospitals, but only one life that has been lost. But to us, it's also big because we don't expect to lose lives. We always pray that whenever we are faced with disasters, we need to save lives of the people. But as a city, as the Premier has alluded to it, we have put our multidisciplinary teams on the ground, roads, parks and recreation, electricity, all departments, including the Department of Development, Social Development in the province, to render at least some therapy to families that were severely affected. But we also want to appeal to family members that let us not all come to this hall and register. We need to ensure that it's only those who were directly affected, because if you experience that water flow to your house, for now you can start preparations to restore things as they're supposed to be, instead of saying that let me come here because I also want to get material. Material will only be issued after the assessments have been conducted to those who were severely affected.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. One question. The turnaround time when it comes to electricity, when will they have it, especially with the community in Ngase, Dube?
No, our teams are already on the ground. As the Minister has alluded to it, that her team, they are already here. They've arrived, working with the province and the municipality. As soon as those assessments are done, the material will start be issuing to those committee members. So we are hopeful that as we move on with the visits to assess the damages, other committees will be starting to receive the material.
Maybe lastly, Lynn Landbutter from Gagasi FM. I'm concerned because there are some of the 2022 flood victims who have not been assisted. I'm referring to some people in Janga. I was there, I think, 3 days back. They have never been assisted. They said government only came, registered them, that was it. So some of them have lost their parents, they are staying in shacks. Some of them buses on Mama Joma Kilwane to help them with Amazons to build structures, but that was it. They have never been assisted. So when will they be assisted? I know now the focus is on maybe these people, so that's my concern.
Maybe let me come in there. What we have done as National Department in terms of all the disasters across the country, it was raised with us here specifically in eThekwini. We had an incident whereby we had people that were in the halls and we requested them to register. But because others were staying with families, neighbors and all that, never registered. So the number then started coming back later. So the focus then started with the ones that had registered initially. We've done a recon. I mean, last night I had a meeting with my team for the entire country, where now I do have figures in terms of what has happened. The second layer would be for us to go back to National Treasury to request funds, because how it's defined in terms of emergency funding is that within that particular financial year, you must utilize that money. So because the financial year has ended, the province does have particular amount, I think about 36 million that is still remaining to be able to respond to those disasters, but we need to request Treasury to give us permission to use it because it's beyond the 31st. So it's called rollover, but they've not been forgotten. So we are doing that hard count. We've done that analysis in terms of the figures and all that. So I did receive the figures and the response with them. So we're working together with the province. We've taken that. It's not only here, and I can say openly because we don't hide information. Some of the disasters that we have, we've been able to track them even beyond 2021. So we had disasters of 2022 in other areas, and some of the areas are repeated. Hence, we're talking about proactively going forward to be able to respond and start moving people, because those areas are especially giving us signals with the geotext that you'll consistently have the disasters happening with them.
I think probably just the addition to what the Minister said, we have, particularly in Njanga, doesn't work, Chelimnyama, all of those areas, you would know them. They were even affected in 2011. We have made a call, even including making, even radio, announcement that those, because there are people who never went to halls, true. There are people who went to relatives, and probably when the teams went on the ground, they can't find them. And we've said those people need to come to the offices so that they can get their help. I know as well of the particular lady who lost even her grandma, but she doesn't want to live there anymore. She left that place immediately when the incident happened, and she'll stay somewhere else. And it's not easy then for the officials to track those people when they get on site. But we have been making announcements that those people that have not received any help, they need to come to offices, because we would not know otherwise. Because we've been able to account for those that are in the halls, those that we've put in temporary flats. We've been able to respond to others as well who've had their houses partially damaged. But as I say, there were people who moved out of the areas, and those, it does happen that they're not being able to get help. But we're still calling on everyone that if you have not received help, please come to the offices. There's a lot of Sizakala centers, there's a lot of councillors' offices, government department offices that are available for people to come and inform us that they've not been able to get any help.
right. Thank you, colleagues.
Well, that was the media briefing, Aldrin, by the Minister of Human Rights, Human Settlements rather, Mmamoloko Kubayi, as well as the eThekwini Mayor, Lucy Kahunda, and the Premier of the province, just updating the media with regards to the number of community members who have been temporarily housed at the Amaoti Community Hall. Also talking about the figures. So as it stands now, one person has died in the winds and the gushing winds and the rain that we experienced yesterday. 6 people have also been injured in the Crater Crest area. They are still looking for more community members. They are also appealing to community members who have perhaps lost touch with a loved one to please come to provincial government and state that, also providing details of where that individual went missing at all. But right here now on the ground, hearing the minister say they are still going to be conducting operations. They will be still going into places that were hardest hit, such as Inanda, Durban, Dube village rather, as well as Amaoti, Sydenham, and surrounding areas that experienced that very severe winds yesterday. I think I'll leave it there, Aldrin, and hand back to you in studio.
Yeah, Jade, in the sense that I'm also getting, it's that it's almost like this level of destruction being caused by weather is compounding in that province, especially considering what happened back in 2022. And now one of the questions being raised that some of the people who were affected by the 2022 floods have still not been assisted.
That is true, Aldrin. You're breaking up a bit, but yes, a question posed to the minister there, asking about those flood victims that have not been housed, who are still living in community centres. And we saw the Premier also talking about some of those members who have now gone on to live with family members, relatives, and that's why they can't pinpoint or account for where those individuals are, but really appealing to the community who were affected in the floods to come to the offices of provincial government and also state where their house was washed away or structure was washed away, so that government can actually assist them. I'm just going to ask Ray if he can walk with me so I can show viewers back at home this community hall that is housing those community members. The minister is saying it's roughly about 150 community members who have been housed in this particular area. Some are still from the floods that occurred last week. If Ray can just walk with me. And really on the ground, they have been saying that although they haven't got stats for us, for the media, they are trying to find more information to give us. And what we know right now, as you heard, one person succumbing to their injuries in Cato Crest, as well as 6 others that were injured also when that wind took place. Now we've also been speaking to weather operators here in KwaZulu-Natal to actually ask them what exactly did we experience. Was it a severe storm? Many are saying it's a mini cyclone. Some were saying it has been a tornado. So that still needs to be determined, but we have been running that it was a very severe storm. If Ray can just walk with me into the community hall, just bear with us, Aldrin, as we go in. Okay, Aldrin, I think we'll leave it at that. We'll touch base with you a bit later on in the program, and we'll possibly go inside the community hall and show you some of the displaced members.